They were red ants, but the flashing light was their wings. These ants had clearly mutated. Not only was it big, but its red wings were also emitting a faint glow. The number of them was terrifying. When the flying ants rushed towards the village, the surroundings were silent. Suddenly, something was frightened and crawled out of the ground. It instinctively ran towards the village, but was discovered by these flying ants. Red light flashed as flying ants larger than peanuts swarmed over. The thing looked to be a meter or two long and was covered in soil. Its thick armor moved very quickly. Its sharp mouth was a little like the pangolin in Li Yuanqing's impression. It was many times larger than the pangolin. Moreover, its sharp fangs and hard scales covered its body, giving off a very ferocious feeling. In Li Yuanqing's impression, this kind of animal should be able to eat ants. These flying ants might even become its food. However, this vicious beast did not intend to go against these red flying ants. Instead, they rushed towards the village, as if they wanted to find a place to hide. However, the vicious beast's body turned red and even emitted light in just a few breaths since it had alarmed those ants. This was because its body was densely covered in red flying ants that were flapping their wings. In the darkness, their red wings with light represented destruction and death. The vicious beast let out a series of wails and rolled on the ground. It tried its best to crush the rock, as if it wanted to shake off the flying ants on its body. However, there were too many of them. Layer after layer, even if it shook off countless layers of flying ants, the flying ants that were crushed on the ground shook their wings and flew up again, continuing to climb on the vicious beast. The beast's screams did not last long. In just 2 to 3 breaths, it was completely silent. Only a pile of red ants remained in the shape of the vicious beast. After the ants dispersed, not even the bones of the vicious beast were left. Hujuju jumped from Li Yuanqing's shoulder into his arms. She was afraid. She was really afraid. These mutated red flying ants were not ants. They probably wouldn't even spit out bones when they ate humans. Moreover, there were so many of them that it made one's scalp tingle. These things were too dense, and there were too many of them. It was unknown how many hundreds of billions of them there were. In any case, it would make people with dense diseases dizzy and tremble. These things could make one's hair stand on end. Li Yuanqing looked at the large red clouds. Wherever they passed, there was almost no grass. No matter what they encountered, they would devour everything. Moreover, the red cloud began to move over. He had more than 200 demon slayer swords on him, but he might not be able to deal with so many flying ants with the demon slayer swords. This was because these ants were especially big and were quite hard after mutation. Coupled with a pair of wings, they could fly quite quickly. These things were not easy to deal with. At this moment, the man-eating vine's leaves, which were originally crawling all over the stone house, quietly contracted. It looked rather wary of these flying ants. Hujuju was so afraid that she even covered her eyes with her claws. She did not dare to look at those flying ants, those moving densely packed ants, at all. The number of these ants was astonishing, and they moved in groups. In addition, they had wings. If no one controlled them, they would quickly become the most terrifying thing in the land of war. Li Yuanqing was looking at those flying ants. In his previous life, he had heard of an ant that things would die wherever it passed. Even grass would not grow. However, those ants were much weaker than the mutated flying ants in front of him. At the very least, those ants could not fly and were afraid of fire. They were not that big either. More importantly, the bodies of these flying ants were extremely hard. They were not something ordinary ants could compare to. These things were a little tricky. What now? For a moment, Li Yuanqing was in a difficult position. All the treasures on him seemed to be unable to deal with these flying ants. It would be good if he could send such an overwhelming number of ants into his domain. For a moment, Li Yuanqing was a little tempted. The domain he could control contained the Yufu Mountain, the man-eating vine, and a large spirit stone. He had never tried to store these things into his domain before and was not very familiar with it. He only knew that this domain was a treasure that relied on the Saint Extermination Stone. Thinking of this, Li Yuanqing picked up the Saint Extermination Stone. The Saint Extermination Stone had a special characteristic. It could delay the opponent's movements and control their mind for an instant within a certain range of its control. In the past, when Li Yuanqing was still a martial saint, he had used this thing to deal with many experts. But now, Li Yuanqing was already a spirit transformation realm expert. So he used the Saint Extermination Stone on the group of flying ants, and those flying ants disappeared with a few swooshing sounds. As Li Yuanqing had guessed, the Saint Extermination Stone was the key to his domain. This thing could directly transfer the things controlled by the Saint Extermination Stone into his domain. Such a powerful army of hundreds of millions of red flying ants had been controlled by him in his domain. It was indeed good stuff. Li Yuanqing was overjoyed. The flying ants that were charging in front suddenly disappeared. There were also some flying ants that were scattered around. They were like headless flies that wanted to run. However, the man-eating vine quickly attacked. It spread on the ground and rushed towards the remaining flying ants. The man-eating vine was extremely fast. There were still some flying ants that had yet to react and escape in the darkness. Soon, they were attacked by the man-eating vine. Its wide leaves rolled up and wrapped around a flying ant. Then, it quickly closed its leaves and the vines wandered around, looking for some lone flying ants. Some of the flying ants could not find the ant queen. They fled in all directions and tried to break out. As there were relatively few of them, and many of them were attacked by the man-eating vines, the remaining few escaped into the forest. Because it was dark and most of the flying ants had been sent into Li Yuanqing's domain, a small portion of them had been devoured and digested by the man-eating vine. There were probably not many flying ants left. In the land of war, no matter how powerful these flying ants were, if there were not thousands or millions of them, it would not be difficult for those martial artists to deal with them. Therefore, Li Yuanqing did not mind. He only watched as the sky turned dark and returned to the stone house to rest. The man-eating vine that had devoured the flying ants seemed to have grown a little bigger. Moreover, a dim red color appeared on the edges of its leaves. That color mixed with the green of the leaves, revealing a color of rust. It was a little different from before. Furthermore, the leaves of the man-eating vine that had devoured the flying ants rustled sweetly, as if it was filled with joy. After Li Yuanqing and Hu Jujiu entered the house, the man-eating vines quickly surrounded the entire house. The entire house was covered in vines, and there were even some rust-red leaves on the vines. Li Yuanqing slept well that night while he stroked Hu Jujiu's furry fox fur when she leaned against him. He slept especially comfortably. The house remained dark because even the windows were tightly wrapped by the man-eating vine and covered with its leaves. When Li Yuanqing woke up, it was already dawn. After Li Yuanqing got up, he put away the man-eating vine and prepared to go to the catacombs. He had kept all the flying ants from last night into his domain. When Li Yuanqing checked on those flying ants, he saw that they were running around and it was a mess. However, they quickly chose a place to settle down in a rocky area at the foot of the Yufu mountain. Countless ants were hiding in the rubble. If one did not pay attention, they would not have thought that they were all hiding under the rocks. Moreover, this time, Li Yuanqing saw the ant queen. This ant queen was really big. It was the size of a wash basin. Its fat body was dragged into the underground nest by the other ants. In the domain, Li Yuanqing was the absolute king and controller. Therefore, Li Yuanqing could sense the existence of these red ants. After his consciousness left this domain, he put away the Saint Extermination Stone. This Saint Extermination Stone could be said to be the foundation of the domain. He hoped that he could obtain some domain fragments the next time he signed in. Only then could he expand this domain again. The most dangerous place in the land of war was the entrance to Catacomb number 2. In the beginning, the cultivators of the Yufu mountain did not block this exit in time, allowing a large number of demons from the catacomb to escape. The original residents of this place migrated away after those demons caused trouble everywhere, and it became a land of war. The land of war became the place where the Northern Kingdom's martial artists trained later on. It also became the place where the Northern Kingdom's army and martial artists were stationed. If he wanted to solve the root of the land of war, he should actually go to the catacombs to take a look. Moreover, Yu Fu, who was controlled by Li Yuanqing, had once gone to the catacombs and obtained a cultivation technique there. Therefore, Li Yuanqing planned to make a trip to the catacombs to understand the situation there and see if he could sign in there. At the same time, He would solve the problem of the demons escaping to the human world. There were actually martial artists guarding the entrance of Catacomb number 2. Martial artists were forbidden from approaching because this place was too dangerous. That cave was much larger than the first cave. It was dozens of meters wide, making one feel that it was more like a city gate. When Li Yuanqing entered, he deliberately alerted the guards, but he was stopped by the guards. "Supremacy, please wait. You can't get any closer. If you go in, you'll be in the catacombs. It's extremely dangerous. Please leave quickly." Most of the patrolling martial artists were martial saints. They could not see through Li Yuanqing's realm, so they were exceptionally polite. However, they still stopped him and refused to let him in. They even informed the general of the catacombs, Qin Feng. This was because General Qin Feng had once ordered that no one, no expert of any strength, was allowed to approach the catacombs for 100 meters without his orders, as those demons were very cunning. They would possess the bodies of martial artists and quickly escape. In order to encircle and annihilate those demons, the Northern Kingdom had spent a lot of effort to get Qin Feng to bring countless martial artists to patrol and encircle this land of war. They hoped that one day they could narrow down the scope of this land of war. "Someone from the Northern Kingdom? I want to enter the catacombs to take a look." Li Yuanqing glanced at the vigilant guards. They were all new martial saints from the Northern Kingdom. Most of them were at the first-grade Grotto Heaven realm. However, he did not recognize any of them. However, he knew that the martial artists from the catacombs and the Northern Kingdom were temporarily under Qin Feng's management. "No one is allowed to enter the catacombs. Please stay away from the catacombs. Please leave quickly." At this moment, the patrol team and guards were not giving in to Li Yuanqing at all. The strength of the Northern Kingdom had increased greatly, and these martial artists were full of confidence. Even though Li Yuanqing seemed to be much stronger than them and had an unfathomable feeling, they were not afraid of him since they were guarding the catacombs in the Northern Kingdom.
Li Yuanqing.
"Tell Qin Feng that I want to enter the catacombs." These people could not stop Li Yuanqing. Such a place required these people to be loyal. Therefore, Li Yuanqing still reported his name and planned to inform Qin Feng. Qin Feng was very obedient in front of him. "What? Your name is Li Yuanqing? You are the guardian of the Northern Kingdom? A human god?" Upon hearing Li Yuanqing's name, the leading martial artist was instantly petrified. As he spoke, he had already knelt down with a plop. Not only him, but all the guards around the cave and countless martial artists hiding in the dark also knelt down. What surprised Li Yuanqing was that there were 7 or 8 martial artists hiding in the dark. They should be the hidden sentries here. Ordinary people would not be able to discover them. At this moment, they were actually kneeling on the ground. These people were completely spontaneous and sincere. Moreover, someone had already rushed to look for Qin Feng after Li Yuanqing reported his name and said that he wanted to inform Qin Feng. The guardian of the Northern Kingdom, the human god Li Yuanqing, the strongest existence in the Northern Kingdom, had actually come to the catacombs? In fact, after Li Yuanqing became a human god and entered the imperial city, the news had already spread throughout the Northern Kingdom. Everyone knew that the guardian of the Northern Kingdom was Li Yuanqing. He was also the first human god in the past 1,000 years. Qin Feng was shocked when he heard the report. He could not believe it. After asking around and confirming that the person who came was indeed Li Yuanqing, he was overjoyed and immediately informed the rest. "Everyone, welcome the arrival of the human god with me." Qin Feng's shout spread far and wide. There were many martial artists in the land of war. When they heard someone send a message for them to hurry to the exit of the catacombs, most of them were shocked. They thought that something had happened in the catacombs. At this moment, they couldn't care less and immediately ran towards the catacombs. Li Yuanqing was invited to a house specially built for the guards of the catacombs to rest. Someone even specially brought tea and told him, "Divinity, please wait for a moment. General Qin Feng will be here soon. He has been waiting for you to arrive. He once instructed everyone about this. The general probably has something to ask of you." Li Yuanqing had originally planned to enter the catacombs immediately after informing these people because he did not want to stay here for too long. However, he did not expect Qin Feng to have instructed his martial artists. Furthermore, others could guess that he had something to ask of him. Could it be about the catacombs? Li Yuanqing decided to meet Qin Feng. After all, he planned to enter the catacombs, and Qin Feng would definitely know more than others if he guarded the catacombs here. Qin Feng arrived very quickly with many people following behind him. When all the martial artists saw Li Yuanqing, their eyes lit up. This was because the guardian of the Northern Kingdom, Li Yuanqing, had only been known recently. Originally, after so many things happened to the Northern Kingdom, not only did it not fall, but it even stood tall. Everyone knew that there was a powerful guardian behind it. The original old ancestor had probably already died. However, the new guardian was the eldest brother of the current Great Empress and the former crown prince of the Northern Kingdom. This identity allowed the prestige of the royal family to reach its peak, and it also made the entire Northern Kingdom worship Li Yuanqing. An expert who could become a human god could let the Northern Kingdom be safe for many years. Li Yuanqing had almost become the hope and faith of the entire Northern Kingdom. This feeling of treating him as a god made his name the strongest existence in the hearts of all martial artists and became a faith. Qin Feng invited Li Yuanqing into a room. Everyone was locked outside. He had set up a restriction here. People inside could not hear the conversation inside. After bowing solemnly to Li Yuanqing, Qin Feng explained his intentions. I've been guarding the catacombs for a long time. We've killed many demons in the process. We obtained a rather strange item. It's this. There's only one. And this is something we obtained from a terrifying level demon. I guess this thing must represent an identity or have some special effect. As he spoke, Qin Feng took out a palm-sized stone-like object. That thing was abnormally smooth and looked like a white mirror. However, it could not reflect a person's appearance. Li Yuanqing took the item. The first thing he felt was a jolt of energy. When he held it in his hand, he felt refreshed. There should be a fluctuation of spiritual energy in this thing, but other than that, Qin Feng could not say what it was used for and what its benefits were. He had only obtained 3 of these things after so many years of war, but he still could not figure out its effects. Thinking that Li Yuanqing was the strongest, Qin Feng handed the items to him. He wanted to ask him what use these items had. Li Yuanqing flipped through it several times, but he could not figure out what use it had. He did not bother about it anymore. He put it away and told Qin Feng that he was going to the catacombs. Qin Feng nodded. However, after watching Li Yuanqing walk into the catacombs, he immediately turned around and ordered all the martial artists guarding the catacombs to not leave this place from now on. They had to guard this place. Moreover, he could not tell anyone about Li Yuanqing entering the catacombs. Everyone had to keep it a secret. This was because Li Yuanqing was the guardian of the Northern Kingdom. Nothing could happen to him. If he was in any danger, it would shake the foundation of the Northern Kingdom because he had already become the faith of the Northern Kingdom. For the sake of the Northern Kingdom, Qin Feng felt that he had to clean up the aftermath. Although he could not stop Li Yuanqing, he could not let the news of him entering the catacombs spread. Li Yuanqing did not care so much. When he walked into the entrance of catacomb number 2, he felt the surrounding temperature drop. Then, it was a little damp inside. He continued walking in and felt that the entrance was very long. Furthermore, he also discovered that the entrance to the catacombs was like a maze. There were actually many forks in the path, but this should be the only exit to the human world. However, there seemed to be many exits in the catacombs. At least different forks could lead to different places. Li Yuanqing walked very carefully down here, almost silently. That was because those demons had appeared here. Time passed quietly. After an unknown period of time, Li Yuanqing finally felt that the temperature outside had dropped significantly. When he reached a place with a huge suction force, it was as if something was squeezing his body desperately. Li Yuanqing even had the illusion that his soul would be squeezed out in the next moment. He even heard his bones creak and his face was almost deformed from the squeezing. However, when he looked at the walls on both sides of the hole, there was nothing unusual. This was a strange place. Only by rushing over would he reach the other side of the catacombs. Li Yuanqing's shadowless art and sand escape technique were used to the extreme. It was not particularly difficult to cross this path. He had no idea how many demons had been minced here. Li Yuanqing quickly arrived at the entrance of a cave. There was light coming from here, which should be the exit. However, There was a whistling sound coming from the exit. He did not know if it was a gust of wind or something else. At this point, Li Yuanqing was once again certain that he had not taken the wrong path. This was because he had been paying attention to the traces of demons along the way. This should be the entrance to the catacombs. After confirming that he had not taken the wrong path, Li Yuanqing did not hesitate and walked straight into the cave. There was a stinging pain on his skin and a wave of dizziness that almost made Li Yuanqing faint. This shocked him. Fortunately, this feeling did not last long. His eyes lit up as he appeared in another place. The sky here was gray. There was no sun or moon. The entire environment was gray, and there was very little green. This place was a little similar to the desert in his previous life. Although there were some bushes, it was more of a dusty yellow soil. Moreover, the trees here were not as tall as the land of war. Instead, it was a little similar to the earth where Li Yuanqing stayed in his previous life. This made him happy. Although the northern kingdom was good, it was more like his second hometown. The earth in his previous life was the place he yearned for. However, he did not know if this world and the previous world had the possibility of overlapping or parallel. Li Yuanqing walked carefully, and a notification suddenly sounded in his mind. Do you want to sign in at the catacombs? Sign in. There was indeed a sign-in reward after entering a new place. This was similar to Li Yuanqing's guess. Congratulations on signing in successfully 100 times. You are rewarded with food. 1. Reward 50 kilograms of food. 2. Reward a water source. The rewards here were quite strange. They actually rewarded food and water? This disappointed Li Yuanqing. He had everything he needed in the Northern Kingdom. He did not have to worry at all. He didn't expect the system to reward him with these things when he came to the catacombs. Stingy. However, according to Li Yuanqing's thoughts, the cave was gray and dry. He was already at the spirit transformation realm. It would not be a problem for him to not eat for 10 days, half a month, or even a year. However, he couldn't do it without water. Therefore, although the reward from the system was a little ridiculous, he still chose a water source. This was because the rewards from the system would automatically appear in his domain. Therefore, there was a river that was about a few meters wide that appeared at the foot of Yufu Mountain. The clear river water slowly flowed past the foot of the Yufu Mountain and flowed around it. The man-eating vine curiously stuck out a few leaves and even moved towards the river. The flying ants seemed to have sensed that there was an additional river in the domain. There were also ants that flew above the river. It seemed that they were still very curious about this additional river, but they were more delighted. Li Yuanqing was also very happy. If he had a water source, food was dispensable to him. He could use the remaining energy to figure out the situation in the catacombs. It would be best if he could block the loopholes in this catacombs and the human world. Just as this thought flashed through his mind, Li Yuanqing felt something trembling. It was the mirror-like thing that Qinfeng had given him back then. He opened it and was surprised to find that someone seemed to be talking inside. Li Yuanqing could hear everything clearly. It was a weak voice shouting, "Is this the catacombs? Who can tell me how to find water to drink here?
I'm poisoned.
Who can save me? Who can save me? I can give him a country in the human world." Li Yuanqing looked at the person with number 00008 and thought that he probably couldn't find any food. He mentioned the human world and the country. Could it be that he came from the human world like him? Or could it be that there were many exits in the catacombs, and other places in the human world could also come here? However, was there no water source here? And this stone that looked like a mouthpiece could actually hear other people's voices. This catacomb was quite mysterious. Back when Qinfeng obtained these stones, they were brought out by those demons. Similarly, others would definitely be able to see them. Li Yuanqing guessed in his heart and simply stared at the spirit stone. Soon, he heard the voice again. The number on it was 00010. If you weren't a human god, your chances of survival in the catacombs would be too small. Not only would it be difficult to find a clean water source here, but it would also be difficult to find food. However, someone is lucky. As long as they can find a water source or a wooden house to protect themselves, they can survive in the night. Otherwise, you will also die of thirst or be strangled by those terrifying things in the darkness, even if you won't be poisoned. This person with the number 00010 seemed to know more about the catacombs. Behind him, many people were also speaking. The catacombs, how did it become like this? Can you hear me? It's too dangerous here. I want to go back. I want to go back. No wonder those demons want to go to the human world. This place is too nasty. There's nothing to eat or drink. I'm injured and attacked by a group of demons. I should look for a hiding place. I just realized that there's a shortage of food here. However, food isn't a big problem for Grotto Heaven Realm cultivators or above. We can abstain from eating, but we'll die of thirst without water. I suspect that we won't even be able to drink dew in this damn place. Also, the night here is twice as long as the day. Moreover, those demons and terrifying things are even stronger. We will become weak at night. We have to live on. Li Yuanqing kept listening to the voice transmission. The more he listened, the more shocked he became. This catacomb was completely different from what he had originally thought. He originally thought that he was the only one who had come to the catacombs. He did not expect that there were many people who had entered the catacombs like him. Moreover, it was very likely that some demons also had this voice transmission device. In other words, if those demons wanted to kill them, they might be able to find them with this. Moreover, Li Yuanqing had obtained a lot of information from the words of these people. The catacombs lacked food and water. Furthermore, the time of day and night was different. If the day was 8 hours, then the night would be 16 hours. Furthermore, at night, the power of demons would be stronger and the cultivation of human martial artists would decrease. That was not all. The key was that other than demons, there were other terrifying things at night. Safety was the most important thing here. The cautious Li Yuanqing did not say anything. He only analyzed the information he had obtained in his mind and immediately made a decision. He was not worried about the water source, nor was he afraid of food. But what would the night in the catacombs look like? Originally, he had planned to find a random place to rest and continue exploring the catacombs. Now, it seemed like he had to quickly find a relatively safe place to hide and observe the night in the catacombs. After all, this place was completely different from the Northern Kingdom. From the tone of some people in the voice transmission, they might be similar to the ancestors of some countries, or even have their own puppet countries. But even so, it was still impossible when they reached the catacombs. It was also because of the water source that he almost died from poison. This was very terrifying. Li Yuanqing looked up at the sky. The sky was still gray, but it was darker than when he first arrived. Thinking of what he had just heard, he quickly started searching around. Li Yuanqing had to find a place to stay before the sky turned dark. At the very least, he had to find a relatively safe place. Otherwise, even if he was in the spirit transformation realm, it would be too risky for him to be alone in this catacomb. The sky seemed to have darkened a lot more. Li Yuanqing was a little frustrated. He thought that just now, he had been searching for a location within a 10-mile radius. Not only did he not find the safe place he wanted, moreover, he also discovered a strange creature in the catacombs. That creature looked like an ugly dog, but it landed on 2 feet and bared its fangs at him. He tried to use the Demon Slayer sword, but he realized that the Demon Slayer sword could not pierce through its fur. This made Li Yuanqing's heart ring with alarm. In the end, he had to take out more than 100 Demon Slayer swords to scare that small thing away. It was still daytime, and that thing didn't look scary. If it was really nighttime, according to what they said on the voice transmission, if he hadn't found a place to hide, he might not have survived the night. The more anxious Li Yuanqing was, the more he could not find the hiding place he wanted. The sky was about to turn dark. Li Yuanqing quickly made a decision. He would stop searching and quickly dig a hole or a cave to use it to get through the night. This place was filled with stones and loess. It reminded him of the Loess Plateau in his previous life, where there were caves. He also needed a similar place to hide. Then, he would study the voice transmission device and see how others spend their nights. Let's see what terrifying things will appear in the catacombs at night. Li Yuanqing quickly chose a small hill. There, he used hundreds of Demon Slayer swords to quickly dig holes in the mountain, considering the danger at night. He dug the cave very deep, 100 meters deep. If it wasn't dark, he would have continued digging. Because the deeper one went, the safer it was. Li Yuanqing was a little tired after digging so deep, but he still felt that it was better to be cautious. He went to find another especially huge rock. He used his strength to block the huge stone that was like a house at the entrance of the cave. He entered the cave when it was dark. When he entered the cave, Li Yuanqing saw that the catacomb, which was shrouded in darkness, was covered in fog. He could barely see his fingers. Moreover, his strength seemed to be weakening in the fog. A huge rock the size of a house was as easy to manipulate as a toy for a spirit transformation realm human god like him. However, in the fog, he spent a lot of effort and finally blocked the hole with rocks. Then, he even broke out in a sweat. This was very rare for Li Yuanqing. It had been a long time since he felt tired. The cave was more than 100 meters wide and was very spacious. Li Yuanqing made a stone bed for himself and even dug a pool for himself. Then, he took out a bubble bath from his domain and took out his voice transmission device. A lot of people were talking inside. Water, water. Anyone who has water can exchange anything with me for a cup of water. Just click on the voice transmission device and my number. I have food and roasted meat here. There are brand new quilts, pets, seeds, vats, and so on. Exchange, exchange. I'm willing to take out a cultivation technique book I obtained in the catacombs to exchange for water. I just need a jar of water. Hurry, hurry. There are voices outside. It's terrible. My house is going to be smashed through by those terrible things. Help, someone save me. I can give him everything I have. Cultivation techniques, Dharma treasures, and the ores I dug up. From this voice transmission, Li Yuanqing could sense that there were a lot of people in the catacombs. There were at least 5 digits of humans like him who had a voice transmission when they entered the catacombs. Back then, Qin Feng said that he had obtained this voice transmission from a demon. Now, Li Yuanqing wondered if this demon had obtained it from the humans who had entered the catacombs. Moreover, this voice transmission opened another world for Li Yuanqing. It was very dangerous in the catacomb. Night was even more dangerous than day, and water was more popular than food. They would also encounter countless dangers. The resources here become extremely sought after here. Now that he thought about it, the water source he obtained from signing in was much more important than any cultivation technique or food. Li Yuanqing was also trying to use voice transmission to exchange items. He followed the messages left by others and clicked on the number on the profile picture. Then, he saw some things that could be exchanged. For example, someone was selling brand new quilts for a pot of water. Li Yuanqing tried to trade once. After he pressed the confirmation button, he felt a snow-white blanket appear on his stone bed in just a few seconds. That amazing? This voice transmission was a treasure? Not bad, not bad. Li Yuanqing was a little happy. He had received a lot of water from signing in. A small pot of water was nothing to a river. Soon, Li Yuanqing grasped this transaction method and began to look for people who needed water on this voice transmission device. He began to tap their serial numbers, and he traded for what he had wanted. There was a large water tank, a set of comfortable tables and chairs, and even a few stools. The stools were carved well and had complicated patterns on them. They looked very beautiful. Li Yuanqing touched the table and chairs. They were thick and felt especially comfortable. Furthermore, the wood patterns were exquisite and smooth. One look, and he could tell that the material was especially good. He also exchanged for a sharp saber. He mainly wanted to see what the people on the voice transmission had taken out to trade and the quality of the items. That saber was rather sharp. Although it was not comparable to his Demon Slayer sword, it was not an ordinary item. It seemed like the people trading on this voice transmission device were about the same as him. At the very least, they were some outstanding people from various countries who had come to the catacombs. However, they were all trapped here now. It was an extravagant hope to leave successfully. Li Yuanqing used water for every transaction. Coupled with his number was 00001. Many people shouted through the voice transmission. Who knows who number 00001 is? He has a water source, a real clean water source. You can look for him if you need water. I used a blanket to exchange for a pot of water just now. I made a killing. A big shot is here. This big shot 00001 is really low-key. Why hasn't he appeared yet? However, He has the water source that we lack the most. Li Yuanqing quickly figured out that the 0000 that these people were talking about was him, and water seemed to be something very rare here. Water source was abundant to him. He might as well change some things on the voice transmission device. For example, the food in the catacombs, seeds, and even some pets. However, those pets needed to eat, drink, and be taken care of. Li Yuanqing found it troublesome, so he exchanged a pot of water for a few large pieces of meat and a large plate of red fruits. Li Yuanqing had never seen that fruit before. He tasted it, and it was sweet and sour. It was refreshing and tasted good. No wonder the person who took the initiative to exchange with him kept mentioning that his fruits were delicious. If not for the fact that he lacked water and really did not have any water, he would not be willing to take out his precious fruits to exchange with Li Yuanqing. That was because fruits were much more precious than food in the catacombs. This fruit was indeed delicious. Li Yuanqing took a look at the meat. It was cooked and smelled a little fragrant. He used a knife to cut it open. After taking a bath, he lay on the chair and ate the fruits and meat. He casually flipped through the messages on the voice transmission device. There was a whirring sound in his ears, and something even hit him heavily. The hole that Li Yuanqing had specially dug almost shook. There was also the sound of claws scratching on rocks outside the door. The sound was very loud. Even from afar, Li Yuanqing could hear it clearly. Moreover, there were waves of howls outside the cave. Those cries made one's scalp tingle. This was something that had never happened to Li Yuanqing, who had already entered the spirit transformation realm. Spirit transformation realm cultivators were known as human gods in the human world. However, in this catacomb, it seemed like he had encountered some unknown things that were abnormally terrifying. These unknown things were definitely not weak. It might even be more powerful than the spirit transformation realm. No wonder so many people were calling for help on the voice transmission device. Thinking about it, those martial artists who could enter the catacombs were definitely not bad. But even so, they still called for help on the voice transmission device. One could imagine how harsh the living environment in the catacombs was. No wonder those demons want to go to the human world. The catacombs is indeed very bad. I hope I can stay here for a longer time. Or perhaps I can leave after I figure out the situation here and sign in for more things. Li Yuanqing took a bite of the red fruit and calculated in his heart. After coming to the catacombs, what he wanted the most was a domain fragment or something unique to the catacombs. After signing in for so many years, Li Yuanqing realized that signing in at different places gave him all kinds of things. However, the more difficult and unique a place was, the more useful or rare the items obtained from signing in. For example, the things he had obtained from signing in at the Yufu Mountain and the things he had obtained from entering the entrance of the catacomb were quite rare for him. Therefore, Li Yuanqing planned to stay in the catacombs and continue signing in. He wanted to see what he could obtain. The sound of something grabbing rocks outside became louder and louder. The rustling sound seemed to ring in Li Yuanqing's ears. Moreover, there would be vibrations from time to time. If not for his cautious personality, he wouldn't have dug an especially deep and strong cave. Otherwise, something would have long pierced through this cave, and something must have rushed in at night. At this moment, Li Yuanqing did not plan to go out since he had yet to figure out the situation outside. He planned to wait for this night and go out tomorrow morning. At the very least, he had to figure out what the terrifying thing in the dark night was and how strong were the dangerous things here. He would only walk out of this cave after figuring this out. There was a lot of information in the voice transmission device. Li Yuanqing, who was sitting there, ate a mouthful of fruit and meat and read the news comfortably. Hu Juju also took a bite of the meat, but she was a little disgusted. She seemed to think that the meat did not taste good. She jumped onto the table and grabbed a fruit. When she took a bite, juice splattered everywhere. She ate with relish. This little thing was as picky as him. Oh no, my cabin is broken. It's so dark outside. I save. A person with the number 00011 had just sent this message when his profile picture dimmed. This stunned Li Yuanqing, who was eating fruits. However, he immediately realized that the martial artist whose wooden hut was broken was probably dead. Only a dead person's portrait would dim. 00011 is finished. He must have been swallowed by that thing. I really regret coming to the catacombs. I was a pioneer in the human world, but I didn't enjoy my life there. I have been afraid every day since I came here, and didn't even have water. Let's live first. We discovered that we can't get out of the catacombs exit. It seems like we need something before we can go back. I've been tricked. No wonder the demons want to leave this place. This is hell. Where I used to be is heaven. Such words that were filled with countless information made Li Yuanqing fall into deep thought. He originally wanted to enter the catacombs and sign in. No matter what, there were many benefits. Even if it was dangerous here, and he could not withstand it, he could return the way he came. In any case, the exit of catacomb number 2 was in the northern kingdom. There was still a way out for him. However, Li Yuanqing had a bad feeling when he saw the message on the voice transmission. It was very likely that he could not leave from the entrance of the catacombs. He and these people had accidentally entered the catacombs. In the end, their avatars and numbers would probably dim. And this voice transmission, it was so magical. There was even a serial number on it. Where did it come from? It seemed like there were secrets hidden in the catacomb. After sitting on the chair for a while, Li Yuanqing felt that it was not comfortable enough and decided to lie on the bed. He covered himself with a clean blanket and swiped the voice transmission device comfortably. After Hu Jujio finished eating the fruit, she licked her lips and looked at the bed and the chair. She seemed to be hesitating. Should she go and squeeze into the warm bed or roll into a chair? It's cold. Who's got firewood? Who's got a water source? Why isn't this damn night over? I'm starving to death and freezing to death. What kind of hell is this catacomb? Why do I feel cold? What a strange place. Water, Big Boss 00001. Can you give me some water? Please. Li Yuanqing realized that someone was sending him a private message, begging him to give him some water to save his life. He even said that he had not drunk any water for 3 days and was on the verge of death. Li Yuanqing looked at the voice transmission device and quickly sent a message. If you want water, exchange it with something. Although he had a lot of water, he was not stupid enough to give away something for free in this catacomb that he had not even figured out. If a person who was really dying of thirst really had water, he would take out everything he had in exchange. I have spirit stones and a cultivation technique. Can I exchange them for 10 bottles of water? Soon, there was news from the other side. 10 bottles of water was a piece of cake for Li Yuanqing. He was a little surprised about the spirit stones and cultivation techniques. Therefore, without any hesitation, he clicked agree. Soon, 2 items appeared on the table in the cave. There was a book and a warm stone that was the size of an egg. However, Li Yuanqing could feel the surging spiritual energy in the spirit stone with a single glance. It was just like the aura of recovery in the mortal world after the blood rain, but it was countless times richer. This should be the stone that locks the spiritual energy. It was also a cultivator's favorite thing. After Li Yuanqing entered the spirit transformation realm, although he could use spirit stones, his strength came from signing in. He thought for a moment and threw the spirit stones into his domain. In the domain, he was the king and had absolute control. Therefore, he would throw anything good into the domain. However, the moment he threw the spirit stone in, something unexpected happened. After Li Yuanqing threw the spirit stone into his domain, the man-eating vine and the flying ants in the domain started moving and rushed towards the spirit stone. It was like a huge rock being thrown into the calm water in the originally quiet domain. The entire domain became lively. The leaves of the man-eating vine shook as it climbed towards the spirit stone. The flying ants also moved when they saw it. Countless ants flew towards the spirit stone. Before the man-eating vine could touch the spirit stone, the flying ant army had already swarmed over and laid on the spirit stone. Then, one after another, the egg-sized spirit stone became the size of a basketball. It avoided the man-eating vines and started rolling towards the nest of the flying ants. The man-eating vine was unwilling to fall behind. It quickly attacked and wrapped around the basketball, wanting to take the spirit stone for itself. However, there were too many flying ants. In just a moment, the flying ant ball the size of a basketball had already become a huge ball more than a meter wide. The flying ants lay on top of it layer by layer, protecting the spirit stone tightly, unwilling to give it up at all. The remaining flying ants also began to bite the man-eating vine. Be it the stem and leaves of the man-eating vine or its vines, they all started biting without hesitation. For a moment, the vines extended by the man-eating vine were covered in red flying ants. Layer after layer, it made one's hair stand on end. The man-eating vine seemed to have suffered a small loss, but when it saw the spirit stone being rolled away by the flying ants, it panicked. 3 or 4 more vines flew out with a whoosh. It had to keep this spirit stone. This thing was too beneficial to it. It could not let these flying ants monopolize it. Another wave of flying ants rushed up. This time, they bit through the vines that extended out from the man-eating vine. The entire foot of the mountain was filled with flying ants. These things were usually hidden underground. This time, it seemed like they were all mobilized. They were all going all out against this man-eating vine. Even though the man-eating vine was injured and had suffered such a huge loss for the first time, it was not discouraged. It continued to grow countless vines to devour the flying ants that were wrapped around it. It wrapped these flying ants with its leaves and devoured them one after another. This was the first time such a huge conflict had occurred between the man-eating vine and the flying ants after they entered the domain. It was all for the sake of snatching the spirit stone. This scene fell into Li Yuanqing's heart. From this, it could be seen that spirit stones were extremely important to them. It seemed like he had to use more water to exchange for spirit stones next time. He could see that the man-eating vine and the flying ants were fighting so hard for the spirit stone that when the flying ants carried the spirit stone back to their nest, the man-eating vine didn't give up and even crawled into the nest of the flying ants. It even wanted to snatch the spirit stone back. However, more of the man-eating vine's vines were broken, causing it to suffer a huge loss. However, it did not give up and simply let the broken vines sprout on the ground, wanting to surround the flying ants. This was a complete confrontation. No one was weaker than the other. The spirit stone was the fuse. The flying ants snatched the spirit stone and sent it underground to the ant queen. Li Yuanqing could feel that the ant queen was shaking her head after obtaining the spirit stone. Soon, it began to devour the spirit stone. It did not take long for it to completely swallow the spirit stone. Then, the ant queen did not move at all. The remaining ants patrolled underground in an orderly manner. There were even flying ants that went to the ground to clean up the vines. It seems that both flying ants and vines require a large number of spirit stones. Spirit stones are rare in the Northern Kingdom, but there should be more in the catacombs. I'll use spirit stones to exchange for more water next time. Seeing this, Li Yuanqing quickly had an idea. He began to post on the voice transmitter as well. Spirit stones for water. 2 pots of water for 1 spirit stone. Li Yuanqing rarely appeared in the voice transmission device. His words immediately attracted the attention of many people, and they left comments below. I have spirit stones. I can exchange them. I have spirit stones. Boss 00001, please tell me about the water source. Why can't I find a water source anywhere, not even dew? Boss, I have spirit stones. Let's exchange them. They are of very good quality. It seemed like spirit stones were easier than water for the people in the catacombs. Someone immediately started to privately message Li Yuanqing and exchange spirit stones with him. One of them, number 00008, caught his attention, because he had exchanged 10 spirit stones with Li Yuanqing in one go. This was not a small number. When Li Yuanqing received the spirit stones, he realized that each of them was the size of an egg. Moreover, the quality was really as good as he had said. It was of a better quality than the spirit stone he had obtained last time. Li Yuanqing secretly remembered 00008 and exchanged some spirit stones with others. The other spirit stones were all one piece, and the quality was much worse than number 00008. However, the 2 pots of water could be exchanged for 1 spirit stone. This was a good deal to Li Yuanqing. Why should he not continue doing this? There were 15 spirit stones piled up on Li Yuanqing's table. He threw them all into his domain. This time, the man-eating vines simply went crazy. Due to the large number of spirit stones, the flying ants began to fight for them, and the man-eating vines also started to fight for them. All of a sudden, the entire domain was in an uproar again. This time, the man-eating vine snatched 7 pieces and the flying ants snatched 8. They quietened down after obtaining the spirit stones. The man-eating vine buried the spirit stones at its roots and slowly absorbed the spiritual energy. Then, it could grow crazily and produce more buds. The ant queen began to lay eggs after it swallowed those spirit stones. Piles of ant eggs were hidden in the depths of the land, and these would quickly hatch into more red flying ants, increasing the number of soldiers for the ant army. This was the important reason why they snatched the spirit stones. Li Yuanqing was a little relieved. There were many benefits to coming to the catacombs. At the very least, he had never thought of these spirit stones before. Also, where did the people from the voice transmission device come from? Therefore, he thought for a moment and asked about 00008. Soon, there was a reply. When the catacombs appeared, our side was in a panic. We checked and only spirit transformation martial artists could enter the catacombs. Then, a group of spirit transformation martial artists were sent out to enter the catacombs. However, we didn't expect the environment here to be so harsh. When the fog rose at night, our strength was suppressed. Then, it would be difficult for us to survive here. Fortunately, we have a voice transmission device in our hands. Some things can be exchanged for supplies with others. Otherwise, it would be even more difficult. This voice transmission device is a refined Dharma treasure. All the martial artists who enter the catacombs have bought it. However, the catacombs are very cruel. Those voice transmission devices don't recognize their owners and will be snatched away. By the way, Big Boss, you're really lucky to have discovered a water source. Water in the catacombs is as rare as spirit stones. No, it's even rarer than spirit stones. There are spirit stone mines, but the environment in the catacombs is special. There are very few water sources. If you find a water source, I suggest you don't move around casually. I'm so envious of you. You're so lucky. This person with the number 00008 told Li Yuanqing many things like he was pouring beans, allowing Li Yuanqing to finally understand some things about the catacombs. Suddenly, some dust began to fall from the cave. It was as if there was an earthquake. Dust kept falling from the top of the cave. Something was scratching the stone wall outside. It should have discovered his aura. At this moment, Li Yuanqing could not be bothered to look at the voice transmission device. He stood up with a whoosh and stared at the entrance of the hole. There was a stone door that he had used a huge rock to make. At this moment, the sound outside the stone door was earth-shattering. It was like thunder, rumbling. This made Li Yuanqing keep staring outside. Then, he released the Demon Slayer sword. As long as the stone door was broken, he would immediately use the Demon Slayer sword to rush up and seize the initiative to kill everything that rushed in. Whatever was out there, he had to charge, because there was no way out. This feeling did not feel good to the cautious Li Yuanqing. Therefore, after the sound outside suddenly decreased, he realized that the sky had finally brightened and the fog had dissipated. The night that had greatly reduced his strength had passed. Li Yuanqing immediately rushed out of the cave. At this moment, the voice transmission device was also cheering. "Quick, everyone, go find a water source and a place to hide. A wooden house won't do. It's best to dig a hole or a cave, or kill those demons and occupy their houses. Otherwise, it will be too dangerous when night falls. Let's not chat anymore. The day is finally here. Hurry up, the day is too short. We have to hurry." Everyone took action. They were in a hurry to make use of the day to gather supplies to resist the danger of the night. Moreover, many people had died overnight, and many of their portraits had dimmed. That was the mark of death. They were still living in threat, and they could not go out at night. It was too dangerous. Li Yuanqing also took advantage of this time to quickly leave the cave. However, when he moved the stone door, he discovered traces outside after he moved the huge stone. The shattered stones outside the stone door were everywhere. There were deep trenches and all kinds of traces all around the cave. It was a mess. Li Yuanqing could tell that it was extremely dangerous outside last night from those traces. Moreover, if he were to hide in this cave tonight, then this stone door needs to be replaced because much of it had been damaged. It probably wouldn't last through the night. It was not easy to dig such a cave. Li Yuanqing did not plan to leave for the time being. Daytime was very precious. Moreover, his strength did not decrease without the fog. Therefore, after exploring the cave for dozens of kilometers, Li Yuanqing quickly became familiar with the terrain. Indeed, there was no water source within a radius of dozens of kilometers. There was only yellow soil and a large number of stone mountains. Because of the drought, there were almost no plants on the mountains. It looked very desolate and only had some low-lying areas. Occasionally, some plants would grow and some ferocious beasts would run over. There was nothing special about those ferocious beasts. Li Yuanqing released Hu Jujiu. Hu Jujiu caught 2 rabbits without making him worry too much. However, after throwing the rabbits down, Li Yuanqing suddenly stood up and looked at another place. Because something had appeared over there. A pig-like animal with tusks appeared. It was 3 to 4 meters tall, and its dark fur was like thorns. It looked at Hu Jujiu in a daze. Blood was still dripping from the pig's mouth. It looked like a carnivore. Moreover, it did not retreat after seeing Li Yuanqing. It widened its eyes and rushed over. Its target was Hu Jujiu. Hu Jujiu was very agile. She jumped onto Li Yuanqing's shoulder and did not take this pig-like vicious beast seriously at all. The appearance of this vicious beast was like delivering food to them. Li Yuanqing flashed lightly and disappeared. A demon slayer sword appeared out of thin air and stabbed at the vicious beast. Li Yuanqing, who was at the spirit transformation realm, could deal with such a vicious beast with a sword. Moreover, he wanted to test the strength of the vicious beasts in the catacombs. The demon slayer sword was so fast that it was blinding. In an instant, it pierced the vicious beast. The vicious beast turned around and ran with a wail. This thing had actually sensed that this flying sword was much more powerful than it had imagined, so escaping was more important. A 4-meter-tall vicious beast had a lot of meat on its body. Li Yuanqing did not want to give up so much food and let it escape in this dangerous catacomb. Therefore, he immediately chased after it. However, this vicious beast fled very quickly. Coupled with its thick skin, the demon slayer's sword could not take its life at all. Li Yuanqing wanted to see if there were any other dangerous things in the catacombs other than this vicious beast. He did not kill it and only followed closely to see where the nest of this vicious beast was. Who knew that he would follow it for more than 100 miles? Furthermore, this vicious beast actually ran into a village with stone walls. There were rows of houses inside the stone wall. Although they were a little simple, they were abnormally sturdy. Moreover, there was something that looked like a lantern hanging on the stone wall. It was hanging everywhere. It looked a little strange. Could it be that there were humans here, or were the demons living here? Li Yuanqing stopped in his tracks and used the shadowless art to conceal himself. He planned to investigate here and calculate the time. It would be dark in a few hours. He had better rush back to the cave he had dug when it was dark. Otherwise, there would be too many unpredictable things after dark. Who knew what would happen to him? Li Yuanqing, who had concealed his figure, quickly discovered that although there were simple and sturdy houses in this village, the people living here were not humans. That was because after the vicious beast ran into the village, it directly rushed into a fence. There was a group of vicious beasts in the same shape as it. They seemed to have been reared. Soon, Li Yuanqing saw humanoid monsters that were about 2 to 3 meters tall. Although the monster had a nose, eyes, and mouth, it did not look like a human. Its sharp fangs were very long, and it looked a little like a wolf. Could it be a werewolf? Li Yuanqing had read a biography of werewolves before, but he had never seen one when he was in the Northern Kingdom. He thought that those biographies were just legends. He did not expect to see it in the catacombs. It seemed that some things did not exist in the Northern Kingdom, but it did not mean that they did not exist. Moreover, these werewolves were very smart. They actually knew how to rear vicious beasts and even return home by themselves. When human martial artists came to the catacombs, their strength would be greatly reduced at night. Therefore, under normal circumstances, they would hide at night. However, these werewolves had a village, which meant that they had lived here for a long time. Perhaps they could go out at night. Li Yuanqing had a lot of guesses in his heart, but he did not let these werewolves discover him. He only saw that the werewolf walked up to the vicious beast and checked the marks on the vicious beast's body. The werewolf left very quickly. Not long after, he took out some black stuff and placed it on the spot where the beast was injured. Li Yuanqing even heard the beast grunt a few times, but it was lying on the ground, looking very docile. Then, the werewolf said something to the beast, as if he was asking or complaining. Li Yuanqing could not understand the werewolf's words. He could only rely on his own guess. He did not stay here for long before he hid his figure and wandered around the village. Soon, he realized that this village was not big. Actually, there were not many werewolves living here. There were only more than 10 of them, and most of them were adult werewolves that were 2 to 3 meters tall. Li Yuanqing observed the weapons of these werewolves and saw that they all carried sharp axes that emitted a cold light. There was actually spiritual energy on the axes. It was very similar to the spirit stones he had seen before. These axe tools should have been forged by these werewolves with spirit stones. It should be abnormally sharp from the looks of it. Li Yuanqing did not intend to alert the enemy. Seeing that it was almost dark, he planned to see if these werewolves would go out to hunt at night or what the catacombs looked like at night. While Li Yuanqing was traveling through the werewolf village, there were fewer messages on the voice transmission. This was because a short day was too precious for human martial artists. They needed to find water, food, and some daily necessities during the day. They even needed to repair their residence during the day. Otherwise, they could not survive the night and would be killed by those terrifying things and would not live until dawn the next day. Therefore, there were very few people who could speak. I'm in luck today. I got some red fruits. I have to get some more wood and strengthen the house. How unlucky. I didn't find anything today. I didn't even see a single hare after running for more than 10 miles. Sigh, where the hell am I? There isn't even a blade of grass within a radius of dozens of miles. If I don't find a water source soon, I'm going to die of thirst. Most people were abnormally busy during the day. However, this catacomb was too desolate. The terrain was not very familiar to humans, and they did not dare to go too far. Therefore, it was not very easy to find what they needed, especially water sources. The catacombs were too dry, and there were very few water sources here. Li Yuanqing did not care about the messages on the voice transmission device. However, just as he was about to leave, he realized that there was something strange in the largest house in this werewolf village. This was because there was actually a human cry for help inside. However, it was not loud and was accompanied by a whimper. This made Li Yuanqing's heart skip a beat. He decided to take a look. This was the first time he had encountered a human in the catacombs. He was very curious. Where did the other human martial artists who entered the catacombs come from? After all, he knew the entrance to the human world. Catacomb number 1 was sealed by him, and catacomb number 2 was guarded by Qin Feng and his men. Catacomb number 3 was in the Myriad City Kingdom. It was very far away from him. He had barely been to the Myriad City Kingdom all these years. Soon, Li Yuanqing saw a female martial artist whose hands and feet were bound by a very thin vine and tied to the corner of the house. The vine looked very thin, but it was deeply embedded in the girl's flesh. Therefore, the lady was very smart. Although she was calling out, her limbs did not dare to struggle. The more she struggled, the tighter the vines became. She could not break free at all. The girl's face was covered in blood, and her face could not be seen clearly. However, her waist was very thin, and her legs were very long. She did not seem old. At this moment, she was tied up here and was filled with anxiety. She was looking around for something sharp to save herself. However, it was very strange here. She could not use some of her cultivation techniques. She did not know if it was because this house was strange or the vines were too strange. Suddenly, 2 werewolves came in from outside and said something that Li Yuanqing did not understand. He even saw a werewolf holding an axe and gesturing at the female martial artist before shaking his head. He seemed to be disgusted by something or felt that this person did not have much meat on her. The werewolf's axe approached the female martial artist. Li Yuanqing could even see the goosebumps on her neck. He could tell that she was a little nervous. The 2 werewolves did not notice Li Yuanqing's existence. They were just discussing something. He even kicked the woman and cut her with his axe. This time, He cut the woman's calf. There was blood flowing. The woman hummed and endured the pain. She did not say a word and only glared at the werewolf. As long as she didn't die, she would destroy this place. Werewolves and humans were mortal enemies. The young werewolf bent down and cut off a piece of flesh from the woman's calf. When he used the knife, he only heard the woman scream, and her voice changed. When the werewolf stood up again, there was a piece of meat in his hand. It was the size of a palm and looked like it weighed more than a pound. However, the werewolf seemed to be dissatisfied and kept shaking his head, as if he despised the fact that there was too little meat. He turned around and placed the piece of meat on a fire to roast. The female martial artist's face was pale as she watched the piece of meat that was cut off from her body being roasted until it was fragrant. It even emitted the fragrance of meat. Her entire body was trembling. In the human world, no matter how terrifying something was, it could not compare to the present. She watched helplessly as her flesh was cut off and roasted. It was even sprinkled with salt and some seasoning before being sent into the mouth of the older werewolf. He took a bite and nodded with a smile on his face, as if he was praising the delicious meat. Then, he nodded at the young werewolf and gestured with his hands, as if he was saying that women were too thin and not delicious. Only by fattening up would it be more delicious. Li Yuanqing was not a loving person, but when he saw a werewolf eating human flesh in front of him and commenting on it, he truly knew that the werewolves in the catacombs ate humans. Werewolves were indeed worse than demons. Then, he saw the young werewolf pick up the knife again and gesture at the woman after hearing the old werewolf praise the meat. This time, he looked for the place with the most meat on this woman's body. He looked at her thigh. He could get more meat there. At this moment, the werewolf looked at this woman as if she was food and did not treat her as a human at all. Perhaps, in the eyes of a werewolf, humans were not humans at all. That was food. It was a fragrant and delicious food. It would taste even better if it was roasted. The woman's legs were bleeding and she was tied up, but she kept retreating. Her eyes were filled with fear and despair. She had imagined countless ways to die, but she had never thought that she would one day be eaten as food. This was unbelievable. The woman tried her best to retreat as she looked at the bloody axe. Even though her calf was still bleeding, it didn't matter anymore. She was about to die. Despair filled her heart, making her almost collapse. Suddenly, two swords appeared out of nowhere and stabbed into the werewolf's chest. Although the swords were sharp, the werewolf was huge and had strong vitality. This demon slayer's sword did not seem to be able to take their lives immediately. Therefore, in the next moment, the werewolf was startled and started shouting. Furthermore, the young werewolf picked up his axe and slashed at the demon slayer's sword. However, in the next moment, he realized that he could not move his hands anymore. That was because a thick, blood-red vine had emerged from the ground and wrapped around the two of them. Then, the vine quickly wrapped around them. In the blink of an eye, the leaves of the vines wrapped around the werewolf, preventing them from even calling for help. However, when these two werewolves were attacked by the demon slayer's sword, they shouted. At this moment, it seemed that other werewolves in the village had heard the cry for help and rushed towards the house. However, before they could rush over, they encountered an overwhelming number of red ants. Then, those ants swarmed over. Even though the werewolves were huge, they were so weak that they could not withstand a single blow from the huge group of ants. The woman, who was already shrouded in despair, felt that death was so close to her. Before she could react, the man with the axe had disappeared. Countless vines appeared in the house. The bodies of the two werewolves had already disappeared, and the flying sword that she seemed to have seen with her eyes was also gone. The entire house was filled with green vines. A young man in white clothes was standing in front of her. The vines had already reached her feet. To her horror, the vines seemed to be very interested in her blood. The blood dripping on the ground had already been sucked dry by the vines, and they were still approaching her. "Don't come near me. Don't come near me. I beg you, spare my life. I can give you anything in exchange for my life." The woman was about to go crazy. She was simply in a passive position after arriving at the catacombs. She could not use any strength after being trapped by this strange rope. She was originally very strong, but at this moment, she was inferior to an ordinary person. Her flesh had been cut off and eaten by the werewolves. It was worse than death. In order to survive, she was willing to exchange anything. What valuable and precious things do you have that are worth letting you go? Li Yuanqing looked at the woman in front of him. This was the first human he had seen in the catacombs. Moreover, he did not know how many more such humans there were in the catacombs. Moreover, humans seemed to be very weak here. Werewolves were very powerful. This was puzzling. Rope. This rope on my body can bind human experts and control the flow of their aura, turning us into ordinary people. No, we're even inferior to ordinary people. This woman did not dare to twist her body casually. She only gestured for Li Yuanqing to look at the rope on her body. This rope was also a vine and seemed to be sentient. Furthermore, it was tied to her body, so she did not dare to move. The more she moved, the tighter it was tied. It has already bitten into her skin. Li Yuanqing looked at the rope on the woman's body with interest, but he shook his head. If you die, I can naturally obtain this rope. Therefore, this thing is not enough to buy your life. Why should I save you without benefits? Li Yuanqing glanced at this woman cautiously. He was not in the habit of being kind enough to save a stranger of unknown origin in a dangerous place. Moreover, he knew that sometimes people were more terrifying than werewolves. I know a place where there is a person with a water source, a lot of water sources, water. How precious. The woman licked her lips. She couldn't help but lick her lips when she mentioned the water source. This was because in the catacombs, water was indeed an extremely precious thing. However, this was relative to others. Li Yuanqing was not included. He had a river as soon as he arrived at the catacombs. Therefore, water was really not that important to him. Li Yuanqing wanted to reject this suggestion, but the woman suddenly said, within a radius of 100 miles, there are water sources and a large number of water sources. I can guarantee that because someone obtained a lot of water sources. If you have so many water sources, you will obtain countless things you want in the catacombs. This woman's words gave Li Yuanqing a strange feeling. How can you be sure? Water isn't easy to find. And who is this person you're talking about? Do you want me to die? No, we have a voice transmission device. You've probably heard of it, or maybe you have it. We used a special method to lock onto the location of a voice transmission device within 100 miles. The owner of that voice transmission device found the water source. You're so powerful that you can easily kill a werewolf. Therefore, I think it should be especially easy for you to kill the person who obtained the water source. This is simply easy for you. The woman looked at the vines under her feet. This thing should be controlled by the person in front of her. A powerhouse who could kill 2 werewolves with vines in just a breath was definitely very powerful. It was too easy for such a person to snatch water. How do I know if you're telling the truth or not? Li Yuanqing had a strange expression on his face. If he still didn't know who the person with a water source that this woman was talking about was, he would be a fool.